Hey, good evening. It's squarely evening. Usually I don't know because I do these a little earlier in that weird in between of evening and afternoon, but it's evening. Good evening, and the sun is still shining, so I'm glad we are now fully into springtime, and I'm super happy about that because it's raising my spirits in a time when spirits need to be raised for sure. So I appreciate you all taking the time out to spend some time with us today for our first virtual live town hall for the Wellness Collective. We're committing to showing up periodically in these town halls to have real discussion around things that are impacting our community, our everyday lives, our systems, our friends, family, and just how we're doing life. I think that holding this space allows for us to to just say the things and hold the things. And in the way we can be innovative and we can be creative and we can be thoughtful about how we carry things moving forward. When we do our town halls, the hope is to have beautiful people like we do today who do the work and whatever it is that we're talking about, right? Like in all the ways that we connect in this system, so that we can bring our experiences, our expertise, and also so you all can see them as well and figure out how to get involved if you're not already aware of who they are. I'm Shannon Williams Hughes. I'm the founder of the Wellness Collective. We're a mutual aid cooperative. If you have not heard of us or you don't know about us, you soon will. So don't you worry, because we'll be out here. So I'm excited to get started today. Now, a quick note. We were starting out having this conversation and holding poverty, and that's what we're still doing. But I kind of want to hold it in the context of housing, and that's because housing is such a heavy beast, such a chaotic beast right now, and probably always has been, but it really is now. Like we can feel it is palpable, and that's what's heavy on my heart. So we're gonna hold space for housing and how it's showing up in our various works and in our stages. So hope that's okay with you all. Still, like I said, like we're still holding things for poverty, but we're gonna center on housing on today. So I have some beautiful folks who are going to share this space with us. So first, I would like to introduce Miss Tammy Thompson of Catapult, Greater Pittsburgh. Hello, Miss Tammy. How are you?
Hello, Shannon. It's always a good day when I get to spend some time with you. So it's been a rough day. It's been a rough year so far, but I'm happy that I get to spend some time with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much, and thank you for always making the time. I mean, you're such a giant everywhere that you go, so I appreciate that you take this seriously, and I know how serious you take our people. So you being here makes all the difference in the world. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Really quickly though, can you tell the folks about Catapult if they're not aware somehow?
Yeah, yeah. So Catapult Greater Pittsburgh is a nonprofit organization located here in the city of Pittsburgh. We cover the entire Allegheny County, and our mission is hyper focused on creating intentional economic justice opportunities, primarily but not exclusively for Black families in the city of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County. And we do that through what we call two vehicles of asset building, which in this country, the two best vehicles happen to be home ownership and entrepreneurship. And we chose to focus on those two vehicles of economic stability because we also want to make sure that whatever we're doing now is having a positive impact on the next generation. So being able to help people um, develop assets and hold assets that they can transfer and pass down to the next generation is very important to us. So we do that a lot of different ways. I won't go into it too deeply, but yeah, hyper focused on wealth building through home ownership and entrepreneurship.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think y'all are amazing. I mean, very, like, oh my goodness. Now we're going to talk more about the programs that you all
Mhm.
offer and just the way that y'all show up in community because it's not just programs, but it's people that y'all operate. Like,
Yeah.
I love how intentional you are about choosing your staff and how
Hmm.
you all show up in community. Like, y'all aren't sitting in some, like, ivory tower somewhere and saying this is what you all need down there. Y'all are a part of our community.
Yeah.
And not just showing up as like we are the organization showing up in the community. Y'all are literally members of our community. Like we're doing life together. And that's
Yes.
so important. And I appreciate that.
Love that.
Yes. You don't get too many catapults, so we lucky. All right, so this is Miss Tammy. Next, I would love to introduce Sam. Sam is from the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank. Hello, Sam. How are you today?
Good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. Sam has been such a supportive partner of ours. We've been partnering with the food bank since what was that? Mid last year, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
All right. It's been awesome.
yeah, and it's been beautiful, like growing this relationship with you all. So, Sam, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about the food bank, which I mean, if people don't know, but y'all offer so much, like, so there, I'm sure there's plenty of things that people don't know about the food bank. And then, what is your role in it?
So I am the Community Connections Partnership Supervisor, but more broadly, the Greater Pittsburgh Community Food Bank is located in Duquesne. We have a variety of food programs, but we've also grown our work to be able to address some other social determinants of health that can contribute to food and nutrition insecurity within our service area. We do have an 11 county service area, so we are really we have a phenomenal team at the food bank that makes all of our programs and our impact possible. But our mission is to leverage the power of community to achieve lasting solutions to hunger and its root causes. And our work has grown to be a more collective impact approach where we are focusing on community-led initiatives and just being a support system. So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And one thing that I was thinking about as you were explaining, like just the work and the way the community, the food bank shows up, right? Like, and that's a huge organization, right? Like 11 counties is nothing to sneeze at. That's huge. Like that is huge. But thinking about like, like it's not just food and the way that you all show up. It's like food and whatever else is connected to the system, right? Like y'all hear me talk about systems all the time, because you really just can't. If one of the gears stop working, the system stop working. That's just facts. And so as you were talking, I was thinking about now I don't know them off the top of my head, but like you know how nature will send these signs that something is wrong. Like so, like certain flowers will show up in certain places because of the environment that's happening. Like certain animals will show up because of what's happening in the environment. And so like and they're there to repair whatever is going on. And so when I think about food insecurity, like that is a clear sign that something is unstable underneath that. Like it's never just food. Like you can't just be unstable with food without being unstable somewhere else, somewhere deeper, right? And so like I just appreciate like how you all are holding all of those things.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we do have one more guest I would love to introduce. He will be popping on soon. That is Paul Fireman, and we will get to him once he gets here. But since we're into the groove and the thick of things, I would like to start off our conversation. Now, I'm going to start off, like I said, housing is heavy on my heart right now. So if y'all wouldn't mind me sharing, we're currently navigating a really heavy situation with a family mother of seven, but five who are living with her. Her two oldest are on their own. Who mother is bad, baby. She is out here. She's a hardworking mother. Her children are beautiful. Like I mean, she's very responsible, respectful, does all of the things right, has been doing all of the things right. And her family have been housing insecure for more than a year. And at this point, I think we might be at the 2-year mark that they have been insecure, housing insecure. All of the things, and it's not, and the thing that's just like for me is that it's not because she did anything wrong. She didn't do anything wrong. You know, life will happen the way life will happen. But she's been stepping up every chance. Like every time there's like, okay, bet, like, and she jumps on it and she does all of the things that you're supposed to do to get yourself back into where you need to be. She's done it. And so where they are now in their crisis is not because mom did anything wrong, but because there has been several systems failures that got them to this place. Now, without sharing too much now, and I'll jump on different platforms. So I am going to be public with her tomorrow. But for right now, what I will say is, mom has a Section 8 voucher. Was looking for a place, found a place. That place was infested with vermin and other things. Family had to move. Bounced in a couple different places and had that story in several different moments. And finally found this place. Went to see the place. Place looked fine. Everything was ticking along. They had to get the inspection done and whatever. Said delayed a little bit, but they got the inspection. They signed the lease. Family moved in. Family finally feeling like they're out of crisis. I mean, our babies were living in shelters, and now they all have this really heavy trauma sitting on them. And now finding this place, feeling like, okay, we can breathe now. But when they got there, and it hasn't been long since they've been there. It has not been long at all. Now the Wellness Collective was able to help out with the security deposit so they can get all the things together. Cool. Got there, the owner, the landlord, my understanding, was not happy with how much she was getting from Section 8, wanted more, and decided to pull out of Section 8, which is weird. I didn't even know you could do that, which meant that mom was now responsible for the entire rent, which is a lot of money, especially when you're not planning to do it and you've been in this place of instability for so long. Okay, fine. This is where we are, so I'll make it happen. Like I said, mom, she shows up. And so instead of folding or I don't know what to do, mom said, okay, I will make that work. And then the landlord came back, my understanding, and said, you know what? I don't want to be responsible for these utilities. Now that's written in the lease that the landlord is responsible for the utilities. I don't want to pay it. And so she didn't. And so now, utilities been shut off. No work is being done in the house at all. So mom fell through the steps because the steps were old and faulty, broke her, fractured her ankle in 2 places, could not work. And we're talking about systems and how things connect. Mom couldn't work. And now mom really doesn't have the money to sustain because of this. Different things being broken in the household, child is getting injured, water not working. So they literally cannot live in their house because it's not safe and it's unsanitary. And so now they find themselves in this really precarious circumstance. And I'm not even scratching the surface of everything that they've been dealing with. But I want to just lay out how real this gets. And her story is not just her story. It's the story. So many families, people, individuals are dealing with very similar circumstances or worse. And that's just, it just is. And then we kind of just oh, well, that's just what it is. But it's not. It shouldn't be. And so that's hitting me because it's not because mom did anything wrong. It's not because there was something on her end that wasn't connecting, but these several instances of systems failing. First of all, a place passing an inspection where they shouldn't have. It should have never passed. And then the landlord being able to pull out and all of these different things taking place. And then now that we're here, no one is here. There's no way for her to seek the system to help her, her and her family. So I just wanted to share that with you all. Ms. Tammy, of course, I know you knew, but I wanted to share that with you all as we're navigating this space with mom. And thank you and shout out to everyone who has been, doing what they can to support. They're still in crisis, but hopefully we'll get them through this particular place. But I want to ask you all, how has housing insecurity, how has it shown up in your work? And then what does that mean for how you're able to do your job when housing is a part of the dynamic, the issues?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. This is a tough topic for me. I'm going to be very transparent because I don't know what else to be. But all of the things that you described about this family all resonate with me because I have experienced most of what you just described myself as a child and as a parent of 5 children. Finding adequate housing for large families is very, very difficult. And so I remember living in substandard housing most of my life. Most of my life, I have lived in substandard housing, uh, meaning housing that was, it was shelter, but there was always something wrong. There was always some kind of health and safety issue. Nothing ever worked all at the same time. And then many times you're afraid to bring these issues to the landlord's attention. You're afraid to bring it to their attention because you know how hard it is to find housing with enough bedrooms, with enough space for all of your children. And, people don't like the rent to large families, especially large families with lots of kids. So you try to make it work, right? You try to make it work, or, you put buckets under stuff that's leaking. You do your own due diligence in trying to keep the pests and the vermin away. And it's not just a housing issue. It's not just an issue that affects your housing. It is an issue that affects your mental health. Your mental health is definitely negatively impacted when you can't live in comfort. When you can't live in basic comfort. You can turn on the faucets and the water comes on. You turn on the heat and the heat comes on. You turn on the lights and the lights come on. Like, these are basic things that most of us take for granted, but there's so many families who are living in substandard housing where they can't take those things for granted. And it 100% is negatively impacting the mental and emotional health of everybody involved, especially the children. Especially the children. Not being able to bathe, not being able to wash clothes, not being able to sleep comfortably at night. These are things that when children, and here's where now you talk about how all of these issues start to touch each other, right? Because they're all connected. The kids' education is now negatively impacted because they're going to school uncomfortable. Maybe they haven't slept. Their clothes aren't clean. It's creating a snowball effect. It's going to negatively impact their educational experience. Believe it or not, Children, Youth, and Services can get involved, right? Because although these are all things that might be outside of your control, you are still looked at as a neglectful parent, right? So all of these things can weigh on a family. And unfortunately, what you just described is not rare. Because we live in a city and a county with aging housing stock, so much aging, neglected, disinvested housing stock, that many folks, and we've had this conversation before, not all landlords are bad. Some of them are just as financially strapped as the families that they're renting to. And so that leads to them not being able to invest in maintaining the property. Or you have the folks who have swooped in and purchased big blocks of real estate, hundreds at a time, knowing that they had no intention of investing any money into them to bring them up to habitability or even code, for that matter. And families are so desperate for housing right now, so desperate. And one thing I want, and it gets me, I'm going to get angry. I know I'm going to get angry. I'm going to try not to get angry. This is not just a poor person's issue anymore. So, before, when folks could just ignore it because it was those people, that were suffering, the second class citizens, the people that nobody cares about. Now that it's not that, now it's everybody. It's a cross class, it's a cross income, that this is, people are having a hard time finding affordable, safe, secure, stable housing. Maybe at this point it'll start being important to people. because it's impacting those other than the single moms with kids and the seniors and the folks who, don't mean that much to society anymore. But I'm frustrated because these are all issues that many folks have been ringing the alarm on for decades. Many of us saw this coming in terms of dilapidated, disintegrating housing stock in our communities. I think that people got so distracted by the word gentrification. People were applying that term to everything that they ignored the rotrification that has been happening in this city for so long. Communities where housing stock has been allowed to just rot away because we haven't had systems in place. We haven't had a functioning land bank in place for almost a decade as a city. So we don't have legislation that prevents investors from swooping in and purchasing hundreds of units of our real estate at a time. Hundreds. I'm not exaggerating. There are out of town investors who have been swooping in, buying hundreds of units at a time. And the only reason that's been allowed to happen is because we don't have a functioning land bank. Because all of those vacant properties should have been in a land bank, protecting them for future investment so that we would have the housing stock that we need to house our residents. And because we didn't do that, we're screwed. As a city, we cannot build ourselves out of this issue. You can't build fast enough to bring on enough units of real estate for the number of people that need them. And it's starting to get very difficult not to be cynical. It's really starting to be difficult not to feel hopeless, but we don't have the luxury. And when I say we, the nonprofit sector, right? We have been left holding the bag because our government, the institutions that are designed to do this, have abandoned us. And so they've left it to the nonprofit sector to solve, and we can't solve it. We don't have the funding to address these issues at the level that they need to be addressed. We don't have the funding or the expertise to build out, to build enough units. The cost of building what we need to house. Sorry, my cat this is just what he does when I'm on a camera. He must be seen. So excuse Tayshawn. But yeah, we've gotten really, really far behind the 8 ball. And as typically happens, the poorest, the most vulnerable of our communities will be the ones who suffer the most. And, it's frustrating because we want to help everybody and we can't. We can't help everybody. We've been trying to assist folks with rental assistance. We've been trying to assist folks with mortgage foreclosure assistance. We've been trying to help people with utility payments. The need is so big. I do not know if people are aware of the crisis that we're in right now. That is not getting better. That is actually getting worse. And I'm concerned. I'm deeply concerned. We've been screaming, and I'm sorry I'm rambling here. I gotta shut up and give you guys a chance to get a word in edgewise. But we have to hold these institutions accountable. The fact that we're talking about an affordable housing crisis while allowing our city's housing authority to just destroy community. God, it's so frustrating. We don't want to hold our institutions accountable for some reason. They're allowed to neglect their responsibility to implement their mission. Their mission is to serve low-income families with affordable housing. And we just said, well, we'll just let the housing authority continue to operate dysfunctionally, and if it impacts people at a large scale, then so what? I mean, I just feel like that's where we are. I've been screaming and yelling and raising a flag and ringing the bell and picking fights, and I feel like I'm by myself. HUD doesn't care. I don't see anybody having any real true oversight of the poor leadership in that institution. And so here we are. Here we are dealing with families who, at no fault of their own, uh, are at the mercy of raggedy policy, lack of oversight, and just what appears to be just a lack of compassion and care for the very people who need that compassion and care.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, you said a whole mouthful. Ooh, you said a whole mouthful.
I think you're muted.
It's probably good that I'm muted. I'm going to shut up for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that, Miss Tammy, because I know it's been your walk, and you've been working really, really hard trying to solve for X. But I heard you, and I want to underscore what you said there, that this is an issue that was put on the nonprofit sector, that the nonprofit sector is not built for. The institutions, the banking institutions, the government is built for it, and it's like everyone kind of just washed their hands of. And I do want to jump on to. I'm gonna circle back to gentrification because I do think it's all a part of the design. It's all a part of the system of. But Sam, I wanted to take a step back and hear what your thoughts are and how housing shows up in your work at the food bank. Like, how does that show up with your work?
Yeah, I will say the story that you shared, Shannon, is not uncommon for us to hear. Similar stories. On the Community Connections team, we have a team of call center staff that field all of the calls that come into the food bank from our 11 county service area, day in and day out. Just call after call after call. And on these calls, often the staff will hear stories from neighbors about what they're going through, what their experience is. And it can be very similar to that. But within those stories, we do see the cycle of how the different social determinants of health do connect and how we see a high need for employment and financial wellness, transportation, specifically to get to our food programs, and housing as well, whether it's needing housing vouchers, needing a place to stay, needing utility assistance, rent assistance, affordable housing in general, just trying to find a place to live. We see that need, and we try our best to connect with local organizations in our service area that are working to address these issues and provide as many resources as we can.
And we definitely see y'all working when it comes to making those connections, because I mean, the food bank does food, right? But all of these other things are intersecting with what that means to need food. Again, like I said, like if there's a need for food, there's an underlying cause. Like that's not the only thing, it never is. But also, like Ms. Tammy said, like this housing issue is not getting better, despite all of our efforts. And I want to take a minute just to think about how big the effort has been around housing, right? Like these huge, resources, like funding, like big, huge programs. And we see no real benefit. Like it didn't stop anything. It didn't delay anything. It didn't change the trajectory of housing. Like we're still in a crisis and it's still growing. That is wild. That is wild. And the comment I'm going to make, I'm not going to go down my gentrification soapbox. I promise I'm not. But the only thing I would say is like, when I think about it, as you were saying, it's like, there was a neglect that was happening, right? Like, and so these houses that just sat empty and just started falling apart, over time. I do believe that's a part of gentrification, because thinking about where that happened, like in Black and brown neighborhoods that were abandoned outright, like the resources go, the politics go, the access goes, the jobs go, the healthcare goes, all the things go where the people are valued. And if we're talking about where Black and brown people are pushed into, right? Because we're not choosing where we're living, we're being pushed into where we're living. When we're pushed into that, then all of a sudden transportation doesn't go there anymore. All of a sudden the jobs aren't there anymore. The schools are now defunded because we don't need to fund those schools. Like schools, like we saw like how many schools, Pittsburgh Public, that just shut down, and those schools were also under resourced like 10 years prior to that, like actually happening. So that's the only thing I'm gonna say as far as like gentrification. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like the city, the county, like generally across the board, just let these buildings fall apart. But I do think that I don't think that's unintentional either. I think it just falls in the same system of gentrification. But I'm gonna step back off of that. Really quickly, I do want to introduce our fourth member of our band here, Paul Fireman. Paul is the owner of Fireman Creative, but he's also on our board for the Wellness Collective. Paul is such a powerful, loving, caring, intentional person who just believes in community, in mutual aid, and in community building, society building. So I'm so thankful for him. But Paul, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's fun to be in the company of smart, powerful women. As a white man being part of this conversation, I really I have to learn from those who live it. And I think that's one of the things that I really try to bring to conversations when I'm trying to help build community in the community that I'm part of, but I haven't fully, I'm not a person of color, so I'm not Black or brown. And but I do think that everyone, this is everyone's problem, and that we need to address it. And as someone who's privileged and isn't part of it, I think it's incredibly important that I listen, I learn, and I actually participate. And so I'm blessed in that I get to work with Catapult and get to work with Tammy. I'm blessed that I get to work with you, Shannon. I also work for the Housing Authority, so I kind of see the full picture of where I think some smaller individuals are actually able to make a really strong impact, where a lot of the larger organizations just aren't. And I think that part of the problem is that people lose the sense of people, and then people become numbers. And as soon as they're no longer people, then you can't. They don't really need to be helped. And so we need to bring the people back into everything. And I'll be part of this conversation as best as I can, but I'm listening and learning.
Appreciate it, Paul. And I didn't know that you were entangled with the Housing Authority. Now I need to know what's your role there.
Well, yeah, I gotta hear this, Paul.
I work on their website, and I've actually been working on their website for the past 14 years. And I hope I don't get fired because of this, but I've always been shocked that their housing purchase program year after year delivers 8 families, 12 families. I mean, such small numbers for the amount of families that that are part of the program. And so it actually gives me more enthusiasm for the work that Tammy and Catapult is doing, because I think that people do need, one, support in how they can set up their lives to be able to purchase property and become a homeowner. And 2, they need access to funding and banks. And if everything's working against people, it's very, very hard to get to the table. And so I applaud the work of the nonprofits that are stepping in, that is taking some space that government really has is occupying, and they have the funding for. So,
yeah. Well, it's a lovely website, Paul. I see Erica Givner has a question.
Yeah.
How do we hold people accountable? Well, Erica, that's a good question. It's something that I didn't realize how naive I was in this work. I've been very naive. because I always assumed coming into this nonprofit space that everybody that was in this space was in it because they wanted to do good work and because they wanted to take care of people. And it was heartbreaking for me over the years to learn that that's not necessarily true. Um, so holding folks accountable is a lot harder than it should be, especially when it is government entities. Who should really be holding our housing authorities accountable is HUD, and HUD's not doing that. The fact that many of these units are able to pass inspection, knowing that the units are not in good shape, and they think they're doing people a favor. Let me just say this. I believe that they think they are doing our residents a favor by passing these units because they also know that there is a lack of available options. And so I believe that they're passing units that shouldn't be passed, thinking that they're doing something good by putting additional units in the market. But unfortunately, what's happening is these inspections are happening over and over again, knowing that there are tons of health and safety concerns that some that range in how bad they are, and families are suffering. And I'm just going to say that I believe poverty. I believe that folks have this mentality that poor people should just take whatever they get. They should be happy to get what they get. And so complaining about rodents or complaining about water in the basement or complaining about this, that, or other thing, how dare they complain when they should be happy to get what they get? And that mentality runs rampant through the social services space. There are folks who have a disdain for people in poverty. And I think that there would be a lot more oversight of some of these programs and systems if people felt that poor people deserve better. And that's just how I feel, because I see it every day. I hear it every day. Well, they wouldn't have had this if we wouldn't have done this. And they should be happy. Oh, they should be happy that they got this. Nobody should just be satisfied with anything. That, first of all, as a landlord, as somebody working in the housing space, you should not be putting families in housing that you wouldn't put your family in. And if people would start thinking more like, if it were you and your family, would you want your family living like this? Would you want your children in their beds at night worried about whether or not mice and rats were going to be chewing on them or crawling in the bed with them while they're trying to sleep? Would you be okay with a family, your child not being able to take a bath or a shower at night or in the morning before they go to school? Like, most people would say, no, I'm not okay with that for my family. But for some reason, for the most vulnerable, for the most for the folks who are suffering in poverty, it's okay for them. And until we change that thought process, until we get people to have more empathy and more compassion for folks, we're going to continue to see this. And people are going to continue to turn a blind eye because, well, this is all they deserve. This is they should just be happy to get what they get. They should be working a little bit harder so that they don't have to live like this. And I'm telling you, anybody that's thinking like this, I pray that it's never you. I pray that it's never you. And every single one of us is one tragedy away from it being us. So just remember that it can all come back around to you and your family. And I just wish we could have a little bit more compassion and understanding, less judgment, less guilt, less shame, less all of that stuff that is associated with people in poverty. Every system that is connected to poverty, we're seeing this. It's not by accident. It's because we don't care. As a society, we just don't care about poor people. And until something starts to change on a large scale, I'm standing by that. I stand by that. I believe as a society, we don't care. And until people start to care, none of this is going to get better. It's just going to continue to get worse.
Miss Tammy, when you said that, what came to mind was COVID. And there was something that happened, and I'm not sure if anyone else noticed it, but I certainly did. This thing that happened, right? Like, because COVID hit all of us in different ways. Like, it turned the world upside down. People were struggling who have never struggled before. People lost their jobs who have never lost their jobs before. Everyone was food insecure. Everyone was housing insecure. Everyone was just losing people. It was a collective crisis in a way that was not barred and barriered off by our social economic status, our social economic status. And so there was this collective, okay, we need to come up with a solution. And what I noticed what was happening is that COVID, like the height of it, right? Like when the shutdown and everything was happening and people were like, we were still trying to figure things out. It was such an innovative time. Oh, first of all, money was falling out the sky everywhere. But there was all these like great things, these tools, these systems, StreamYard, the thing we're on right now, like all of these things just kind of popped out of nowhere. Like, and they were like beautiful and amazing. And it's like, wow, like, I mean, mobility and access and accessibility, it just happened, you know, for folks who have always had barriers. And now all of a sudden, like, it's like, oh, wait, you know, we can just develop this technology. Oh, we can develop this system. Oh, wait, we can do this differently. Oh, we don't have to physically be in a place. Like we can think about this differently. And so as you were saying that, Ms. Tammy, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a fundamental belief issue before it's anything else. Even when we're thinking about something as big a bear as housing insecurity, and therefore like the insecurities overall, right? Because housing is one part of a system. Like housing is messed up, food's messed up, healthcare, education, et cetera, and vice versa, and so on, right? Like, but if we collectively value the people who are mainly affected by these issues, then I think we can absolutely come from, you know, this place of like, oh, well, we don't know what to do, or they need to get themselves together. Like, well, the problem is that they're lazy and whatever other lie that we're told, and we in turn tell ourselves and other people. But if we had that same like moment of like, we're all in this together, that happened in COVID that I've never experienced personally, not to that scale ever, I think we can do it. I think we can absolutely do it.
No, you're right. And unfortunately, you're right. Right. When it was everybody suffering, oh, we had solutions. We could figure it out. No, childhood poverty evaporated. Right? We figured it out because everybody's child was at risk. But the minute everybody's child wasn't at risk of losing life, home, food, then we didn't care anymore. Right? And so there we can't buy into this idea that there's not enough resources to support every human being in this country. There are. We've got plenty of resources. So if we really truly wanted to solve these issues, we could. So where does that leave us, right? Where that leaves me is frustrated as hell, because if I know that there's an ability to solve some of these issues that we're dealing with on a daily basis, and it's not happening, then the only thing left to believe is that that people don't care. I don't know what else to think when we know that the possibility to correct these things is there, and then it doesn't happen. Then it means that the people who are in a position to solve it don't care for whatever reason. Some of it, I think, is part of this capitalistic country that we're in, that you can't have rich people without poor people. Right? Because you got to have poor people to work for the rich people to keep them rich. And if we bring everybody up, and they don't have to work as hard. See, because remember, that was the other topic that was happening during when it started getting past the height of it. Then it was, okay, well, now we got to get these people back to work. We got to get these people back to work. Stop giving them money. Remember that? Stop giving all these resources. Stop giving them all this stuff so they can get back to work. It's so obvious. We could bring everybody up so that they don't have to work 2 and 3 jobs to put food on the table or keep a roof, but we don't want to because we need people to be starving and hungry and homeless and desperate so that they can continue to work like dogs and slaves for $7, $10 an hour so that we can keep rich people rich. It's the system itself requires people, a certain amount of people, to be poor. And as long as that is the case, they will make sure that people are poor and need to be desperate enough to do their bidding. Yeah.
I got you, Paul. Go ahead. You're on.
Okay. I want to actually, spinning off of this whole notion of the pandemic and how it kind of forced change. One positive program that was funded by the URA here in Pittsburgh is a program called GoGo. That's Neighborhood Allies Facilitates. So it's a nonprofit, but they're getting funded by the dollars that are coming from, our Urban Redevelopment Authority. But this program is very interesting to me because it really helps entrepreneurship, and it gives resources to entrepreneurs so that they can launch businesses and make more than $7 or $15 or whatever minimum wage is being, out there, so that people can become their own bosses. They can take the reins of their own destiny. And that program, I think, it started during COVID, and then I thought it wasn't going to get funded again, and I just found out it is funded again. So something that began during COVID, for kind of that time that all the dollars were falling, is now actually continuing. And it's going to be really interesting to me to see all of these entrepreneurs find their success and then climb the ladder. And that's the real issue. It's about money. And Tammy, I think you're not wrong about the fact that rich people need poor people to stay rich. I think that's on point. But poor people need to do what they can to change it. And they need to have hope. And sometimes starting businesses or having the opportunity to be able to collaborate with visionaries so that you can be kind of close to the explosion that's going to generate wealth is really important. And as I work in this space, I want to give people hope. I don't want people to kind of say, oh, well, this is a problem that's been going on for 50 years, actually hundreds of years, thousands of years. We can't solve it. I think we can solve it, but I think there is going to be some fundamental shifts that are going to have to happen. I think some people who have extreme wealth have to put themselves in the shoes of the people who have no wealth and figure out a way that, hey, maybe a guaranteed living wage, and it's something that I thought we were going to test here in Pittsburgh, and unfortunately it got taken off the table. I think we should be playing with programs like that. I think we should be seeing what happens when you can actually take the fear of not being able to feed your children out of someone's life so that they then can focus on, okay, what am I going to do to be more productive and earn more money? And I think that's a really important thing that we all need to keep pushing for.
Yeah, that guaranteed basic income programming, right? That is something we've been testing. We tested a cohort, it'll be almost a year in July. And what I can tell you is that people not having to worry about where money is going to come from to buy food or to pay their rent or to even cover that additional cost. Now I can send my baby to football camp or violin lessons. That creates an entirely different quality of life for people. And it doesn't take a lot of money to do it. As a matter of fact, it's going to take less money to just give people the money they need than it costs to fund all of these damn programs. Right? We got all these programs. We have, all the SNAP program, the cash assistance, all of these programs. It would cost much less to just give people the money they need, to just give it to them and let people do what they need to do. And it'll change everything. The self-efficacy that comes with knowing that I have enough income to cover my basic needs. We're not talking about sending people to trips to Paris, although I'd love to send people on trips to Paris. Right? We're just talking about giving people $1,000, $1,500 extra dollars a month. Just literally probably a quarter of what we're actually spending on poverty per person in this country. But we won't do that. You know why? Because we want to control. We can't trust poor people to know what to do with their money. Where they're going to go out and buy drugs and alcohol and get their nails done, for God's sakes. Right? So we can't trust people with the money. It's the most ridiculous thing ever to think that doling out money through badly run social programs is better than just giving people, because it's not like nonprofits get money and do the things other than taking care of the people they're supposed to be serving. We know that doesn't happen, right? It's a joke. Give people the money and let them do what they need to do. I think that eventually there's going to come a point where that is a necessity. Guaranteed basic income programs will happen one way or another. Hopefully it doesn't take the entire economy collapsing, the entire society collapsing before people realize that that's really the answer to solving our poverty issues.
A couple of things come to mind. Thinking about the universal basic income, because it is happening in other places, right? And so like what comes to mind is curious about like what it takes for a society or a community to commit to something like that, right? Like thinking about like fundamental beliefs, like what is our fundamental belief as a society in greater Pittsburgh and Allegheny County and Pennsylvania, like what is our beliefs? Because again, it's happening other places and you gotta wonder why, like, like why is it happening there and not here? And like, what would it take for it to happen here? Is it a logistical issue, or is it a belief issue, or is it a mix of both, or some other things? And dang it, I forgot my other thought, which was my first thought, but that one took over. Whatever, it'll come back. But I appreciate that. That's what it was. Ms. Tammy, as you were saying, I was thinking about like living in functional abject poverty, right? Like having to work 2-3 jobs and still not making ends meet, or maybe just barely. If anything, if the wind blows the wrong way, like then everything hits the fan. It makes me think about also that means that you don't have time. You don't have time to participate in society. Like I can't go to these council meetings. I can't go to these public board meetings. I can't express my thoughts. And we both know that board meetings are used kind of as a chip, like in like that visibility, that voice. We've seen oftentimes like them being pulled off the table because, inclement weather, COVID or whatever else, like, and they just go away. But that's all, it happens quite often when they know there's about to be a whole bunch of people showing up for a particular issue, and the board meeting just goes away because then it's on record. Like, then there's some voice happening, right? Like, so as you were talking, it had me thinking about, again, when we don't have time outside of like just, barely scraping by, like putting all our time and energy into barely scraping by, we cannot participate in society just as much as we cannot dream, we cannot grow, like we can't do these things, right? Like the Wellness Collective was founded on making sure that everyone has their basic needs met. Because once we have our basic needs met, then we're free to do the other things, right? I can dream differently. Like I can invest, I can take risks. Like you can't take a risk if your foundation isn't set. Like you just can't. Like why would that happen? I would never take risks if my foundation wasn't set for a long enough period of time for me to do it. Like not, it's set for like a few months, And I don't know what's going to happen after the fact, except for a few days, but goes up and down. That's not stable. Like, we need stability. So as you were talking, I was thinking about that. Like, it takes all of those things off the table. So like when folks are like, well, you should have been here. Why aren't you showing up at the PTA meetings and whatever else that people like to blame folks for? Well, life is happening and I have to make sure me and my baby stay alive. So anyway, I would like to shift gears a little bit because y'all do such beautiful things. And while like we thought it was great to have you all on, again, like we work with you all in different capacities. But I am curious about just the ways that you show up, right? So we held a lot of space for housing because it's such a big bear. And I think it's important that we do hold that space for housing. But it's not just housing, right? Like systemic issues are systemic issues. So the system itself is broken and jacked up, or actually it's working as it should work, but it's hurting people. And so I'm curious about like the work that you all do. What are the programs or initiatives that you all have in your programs that you're most excited about, or what's your favorite part about your work? Sam, I'm going to ask you first.
Sure. So we have a really great advocacy team. We have a government relations advocacy team, and they have done some amazing events where they've collaborated with neighbors, with lived experience, partners who are also advocating for food assistance specifically, and elected officials as well. And I had the pleasure of being a part of one event that they held with Congresswoman Summer Lee, and it was a really safe and appreciated space that team had created to elevate the voices of our neighbors and our partners, and then furthermore having the support in elevating those concerns from an elected official. So that's one of the ways that we've shown up. Another really exciting program, actually it's two exciting, one initiative and one team, a newer team. It's called the Collective Impact Team. They take a more community-led approach. So assessing the needs of the community based off of direct feedback from neighbors and partners that are living and working in those communities, and offering support, and really just like literally that, offering support, not inserting ourselves, and wanting to again, elevate the amazing work that's already happening to meet the needs of our neighbors in those communities. And we're doing something similar on a smaller scale. Right now, we're working in Clairton, which has been really exciting. And we went with the approach of reaching out to partners that are already doing amazing work to meet the needs of the community, seeing how they want to see support from us, if they do at all. And then now we're at the stage where we have surveyed and done some outreach, and we're going to have some live sessions in person to go over that data and see how we can implement any programs that would be useful. And really, it's whatever is most useful to the community members who are in need of the services. So those are some of the really exciting things that I'm involved in right now and that we're working on as a whole.
That's so cool. And I love the intentionality of, we're not just going to show up and tell y'all what y'all need, but let's see, like, y'all tell us what you need and we'll collaborate and work together to figure out where do we go from here. So I appreciate that. And I love that you're excited about it, Sam, because y'all did talk about that. Well, I got the email about it not too long ago. So yeah, I'm glad that y'all are doing that.
Thank you.
Paul, how about you? What you got going on? Oh, wait, you're muted. Gotcha.
It's interesting. I'm coming right after the food bank, and I'm going to start talking about food. There's two things. First of all, I'm super excited about an initiative of the Wellness Collective in terms of two amazing vehicles that are going to allow the Wellness Collective to take all of the goodness of mutual aid and drive it into neighborhoods that are in need, and bring with it the opportunity to actually deliver food, to deliver love, to deliver technology, and also a really good cup of coffee. I can't speak, cup of coffee, or some other beverage. So that initiative, the By Any Beans Necessary initiative, which is a genius name, it is something I'm super, super excited about. And I've been very blessed to be on this journey with Shannon as she's acquiring these vehicles and taking off. And I know, Tammy, you've been supportive of this. And when those vehicles hit the streets, it is going to make a huge impact. And I'm super, super excited about that. The other project that I'm very excited about is a farming initiative. And there's an organic farm here in Pittsburgh called Blackberry Meadows Farms. And I've been working with them for years. And they've been running this, they do CSAs, which are community supported agriculture. So people buy up front, they give the farmers money up front. And then the farmers say, okay, we've got this money, but we're going to give you everything that comes out of our field all season long. So that model has worked pretty well for this farm for a while. But now kind of corporations have learned about, people want to have food delivered to their homes. So Harvey Foods and other kinds of technology companies that are food distribution companies have kind of stepped in and said, don't give the money to the farmers, give the money to us. We'll give you more options. We'll make sure that you get the best of every single farmer. What that takes away from is the security of the farmers having the money up front and the direct relationship between the farm and the consumer. So that caused this particular farm, this Blackberry Meadows farm, to say, hey, you know what, maybe we need to change this model a little bit. And so we've been brainstorming for a while, actually started about 1.5 years ago, how we can get people to grow their own food. And so basically in the greenhouses of Blackberry Meadows Farm, they have a thing that's called Garden Club. So if you have a plot in your backyard and you'd like to get plants that you can grow your own food, you basically can subscribe to this Garden Club, and they'll give you instructions and plants that are all coming from organic seeds and grown in organic soil, and you then can grow them in your own backyard and harvest your own food. That's a really cool program. But that can only happen on a small scale when you're in any kind of environment where you have like a raised bed garden or a small plot. So what we've moved to is something that we're calling Garden Club, where we're letting people kind of come to the farm and do their own farming. So like a community garden, but at an organic farm, where you can still get the plants, get the support, get everything else, but you're going to be able to grow your own food. And you'll be able to produce on this small little plot enough food to be able to feed 4 households. So if you want to be an entrepreneur, you could then turn around and say, okay, I'm going to sell this through a farmer's market. If you want to be a mutual aid person like myself, I'm going to be going on the Any Beans Necessary and saying, hey, I want to share my tomatoes. And these are organic tomatoes that are safe to eat. And we'll be able to kind of put it out there through that. But it's going to be a hard, interesting summer for me because I'm now committed to planting and growing, and farming is a full-time job. And I have another full-time job. So it's going to be an interesting journey, but I'm really excited about it. And I'm interested in seeing if this can work, because I think the closer we can get people to kind of providing for themselves, the more we can change the systems. That's why I really love this GoGo program, because if you can get entrepreneurship to happen and get people to build their own businesses, they don't have to worry about what their employer is going to pay them or not pay them, because they are the employer. And to farmers, if you don't know what your food's coming from, you're eating junk, you grow it yourself, you know what you're having. And I think that's what's happened to us in our world, is that everyone's gotten really removed from things that they can take control of. And so I'm excited about this food program. Fingers crossed that it works this year.
I love that. I've always loved that. I think it's beautiful. And yeah, like owning and having control over your food source. As we know, like food just being like a super like heavy topic as well. So many of our folks living in food deserts, like not having access to fresh food or, healthy foods, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I just love that. I love when you told me about it, the farming cooperative, and the idea of being able to go to a farm and work the soil and be a part of that. I see educational opportunities for kids to just learn like the process and being able to connect. Like, we know there's a mental health component of just touching the soil and being like a part of
100%, and being outside, just being in the sunlight.
Absolutely.
As a mental health component.
Absolutely. And then being able to take like a lot of food back to your community. Like, like I think that's absolutely beautiful. So I'm excited to have you on by any means necessary. And since you mentioned it, let me take just a quick minute to talk about what we got going on. And so if you're unfamiliar with the Wellness Collective, like I said, you'll hear about us soon enough because now like we're coming out of our little shell. But one of our initiatives that I'm so excited about is our social enterprise. It is the By Any Means Necessary mobile cafe and market. As Paul said, it's a mobile space. And so let me show you a picture of it here. So I took a picture when we went and got them. That's me. Check me out. But we went and got them. But there's two of them. It is a mobile lounge space. There will be mobile coffee lounges. And so folks, as Paul said, can come and purchase your coffee. But you can also, different than like, a typical food truck, you can actually come in and sit down and have your coffee there. You can connect to the Wi-Fi. We are going to have what we call our micro residency, which is an opportunity for other organizations like Catapult Greater Pittsburgh to join us in the community because we'll be in the community hanging. And so when you are an organization like Catapult Greater Pittsburgh and you have all these phenomenal programs, or the Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, and you have all these like phenomenal resources, why would you not want to bring them directly to people when we know mobility and access is such a huge barrier? And so Miss Tammy with Catapult can bring the CLEAR program straight to the community to help folks untangle the title so that they can own and keep hold of their property that their families own. So they're not losing it, when someone passes on. Greater Pittsburgh Food Bank, people can get signed up for SNAP when you do need gap support when it comes to food resources, right? Like, and then with Paul, like, like being able to just show up, here's some food, like, like here it is. We can do that, and we can do that in a really direct way. So that's our micro residency. I mean, we're also going to like have indoor, outdoor events, and these things are so cool. I mean, the pictures really don't do it justice. As you can see a little bit like the inside, right? You can see the inside here. But did you know that there's also, it's fully contained. So there's a bathroom on both of them. So you don't have to go anywhere. So if we're doing outdoor events, you don't have to go to the nasty porta potties that don't nobody want to touch. You can go right onto the bathrooms. It's going to be well maintained in this beautiful little space. There's heat, there's air, so it's controlled. So you ain't got to be all uncomfortable and hot and sticky and sitting all close to folks. There's an awning, so if you want to sit outside in the shade, you can do that as well. We're gonna rent out these things, so like if you think it would be cool for your wedding, you can do that as well. And guess what? Like as we are, like I said, like we're gonna be selling coffee, we're gonna be renting space, we're gonna have our micro residency, and all of that is gonna be in the benefit of our mutual aid cooperative. So we're talking about stability, right? Basic needs being met. By any means necessary is literally the community owning a business. Flat out 100%. So the revenue for this enterprise here is going directly into our mutual aid. So if you're not a member of the Wellness Collective, I implore you to join today, and don't wait until you need it, because that's not how it works. If you need it today, you're not going to be able to get it today. Like that's where the reciprocity comes in, because that's how the doors stay open, right? Like charity doesn't work. Charity is a part of capitalism, so we're trying our best to stay as far away from that. And when I say charity, that is like hand to mouth, like feeding crumbs to folks when they need it in their time of need, but not enough to sustain them. Mutual aid is literally everybody's chipping in. Everyone's chipping in a little, so that when any of us need, there's enough there, and there's enough of us. There's enough resources. There's enough support. There's enough access. We have it. We said that earlier. We absolutely have it. It takes very little, and we've seen that, right? If you know me, if you know the Wellness Collective, if you know Shannon, like there's been plenty of times I'm like, hey, our neighbor needs $3,000. Do you have $5? And I mean it. Like I'm not saying $5, but I hope you like slide 50 or whatever. Like no, I mean $5, because there's enough of us. There's enough of us. Like if you got $5 and I got $5 and they got $5, then we're good. Matter of fact, if you got $1 and I got $1 and they got $1, we're still good. It doesn't take a lot when we're all chipping in a little. Like that's just a fact. It is a fact. It's a historical fact. So if you're not a member of the Wellness Collective yet, I do absolutely hope that you consider joining. Be it for yourself, for a family member. You never know when there's going to be calamity, and sometimes we can't shift and shake them to make it work. Or if it's not you, somebody else. Because when you are a member, even if I don't need any support, I might know somebody, and if they're not a member, what I can do is I can sponsor their need. And so that's the way that we maintain the mutual aid, but we also make sure the door stays cracked open for whoever needs it. but it takes for all of us to be a part of the thing. And again, like, you know, by any means necessary is a business that's owned by the community, but you have to be a part of the community. Like you have to be a part of the Wellness Collective to take benefit of that. So yeah, so I'm super excited about that. Thank you, Paul, for mentioning it. It will be, you know, we'll be talking about it a lot more as time goes on. And super shout out to Catapult Greater Pittsburgh, because they actually played a really, really, really instrumental role in us making this happen. I hit up Miss Tammy. It's like, I see these things and I had this idea. Miss Tammy was like, "Bet, let's do it. How are we going to do it? Here's some money. Here, we got you. What we going to do?" And all of the ways that I think I'm tripping and I'm dreaming too big. Miss Tammy is like, "No, dream bigger, sis. Let's go." Every time. So I definitely, I appreciate you so much in ways that I can't even express, because you literally have always been there when I'm not even there myself. Like, and this is a really like clear example of that. So thank you, and y'all. Thank y'all. Ooh.
Well, don't make me cry, because listen, God, I'm in such awe of you. You know, it's rare to come across people who do this work with the heart that you do it. And it's lonely, because I'm just being honest. There's not a lot of folks out here doing this work really, really fully from the heart. And I see that in you. And there is nothing that you can ask me that I will not try to make happen, because I know that every investment into you is benefiting our community. So if I got it, if we got it, you got it. I'm giving it, you know, I feel very strongly about that. And, you know, we don't talk about it a lot, but when we get money, you know, I remember when I get money, because I know how to, I'm a good fundraiser. But we're not just getting that money and hoarding it, and we're putting that money back into the community. We make a ton of mini grants when we get grants. When we get grants, we make sure that the community and smaller organizations and grassroots orgs are getting some of that money, right? We believe in planting seeds in organizations that are doing the work. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be able to be, you know, investing in capacity, because that's what we see it as, capacity building. We know we can't do everything. We don't want to. I'm tired, y'all. I don't want to do everything, but I believe in. There's a lot of organizations doing great work in our communities, and unfortunately, a lot of those organizations don't get seen. Right? They don't get the attention of funders. They don't get the fund, and they still continue to do the work. And so every chance I get, and every chance our organization gets to invest in those organizations, we're going to do it. You know, we're going to do that. So I'm just so excited. I cannot wait to see these trucks on the road. I cannot wait to see them pull up in communities and people get excited and, you know, and recognize that they're not forgotten. I think that what this represents to me is that we're going to show people that they're not forgotten, right? We're going to show up and happy to see them and listen and bring them the things that they need and invite them to do the work with us. I think I'm just super excited. I'm excited about it. And I know you're going to do an incredible job. You're going to be a great steward of those trucks. And people are going to get what they need because you're going to make sure they do. So it's just an honor to be able to contribute in a small way.
You're gonna make me cry. Oh my goodness. Thank y'all for being on this journey. I think nothing is on accident. I think everything and everyone in it is purposeful. And like you said, like I cannot wait.
Can't wait.
And bring the party to the people. Like I can't wait to bring this resource and this ability to just have mobility, to move around in life, to put the shoulders down, like, you know, to nap, to rest.
Yeah.
For our folks, you know, I cannot wait because it's long overdue. And someone said something earlier, and I can't remember what it was, but I know what came to my mind and my heart was that like we got us.
Mm-hmm.
Like we ain't got to like beg and pound down, the doors of folks who have just chose to ignore us. Like, we don't have to do that. People
That's
who are, we're here. Like, we care about us. Like, let's go on and pull our resources and make the thing happen. And we can do that. And we do have enough. We have what we need. We have everything.
Yeah, I think you're right. COVID proof. I saw, and it was the one thing I remember saying during the height of COVID. I hope that this continues. I hope this taking care of each other. People were taking care of each other. They were taking care of their neighbors. People were pitching in and jumping in to volunteer and give what they had and sharing what they had with those who didn't. And I prayed that it would continue beyond COVID. I still see it in pockets, but I'm not seeing it at the level that we were seeing it during COVID. And I would love for us to get back to our humanity and, recognize that we all have more. Most of us have more than we need. We have more than we need. And sharing with other people and even sharing resources, sharing opportunities, sharing connections, sharing information with each other. That is a way of supporting your community. If you get information about a resource or something that benefited you, share it with somebody else. That information hoarding is terrible. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do it amongst each other as residents of a community. And we also don't need to do it as organizations and nonprofits, right? Come on, y'all. We can share information, share what you're learning with other people. And I just think it's going to just take all of us doing a little bit more. We all get, and sometimes it feel like I'm tired. I'm feeling right now the tightness in my neck and my shoulders. I'm exhausted, but I know that I can still give more, and so that's what I'm going to do. But I think we all, as we're all doing more, I feel very, very strongly about holding to account the folks who have signed up for these positions of power. They have to be held accountable. There's no way around it. When you sign up for this work, and I feel the same way for folks in the nonprofit space, we chose this work. I don't know why, but we chose it. And when we make that choice, we have a responsibility to the people that we serve. We have a responsibility. And I want to be held accountable the same way I hold other people accountable. So I'm not exempt. I want to be held accountable too. That's part of the work, is being held accountable. So we have to figure out, and I love Erica, how do we hold them accountable? I think we need to have some conversations about that. I think we need to figure out together what is the best way to hold these folks accountable, because the way in which we used to hold them accountable, I don't know if that works anymore. Right, showing up to board meetings, yelling, screaming, calling in favors with electeds, trying to write letters to HUD and other. It's not having the same. It's not hitting the same for some reason. It's not having that same level of impact, and I don't know why. So it's frustrating, but all I can do is just keep doing what I do. All we can all do is keep doing what we do, and just keep being loud about it. It's not personal for me, although I've heard rumblings that it's personal, because this work is personal to me. So if it feels like I'm singling people out and I have a personal issue with them, I do. I got a problem with people that mistreat my people. I do take that personal. It is personal. So, sorry, it's personal. It's personal.
I'm howling. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. Yeah. What as you were talking about, like, I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know why this isn't effective. What came to mind is boundaries. And I talk about boundaries quite often, and what it means to actually set and enforce boundaries, right? Like, First of all, you gotta know what your needs are. Like what is hurting, what is, like what's not honoring yourself or whatnot. And what do you need to reset that in a healthy way, like not a combative way, not a retaliatory way, but like what do I need? And then what happens when that need is still not being met, regardless if I say it or not, right? Like, and so that's what, like turned on my brain as you were talking about, like, we've been showing up to the board meetings and writing the letters, and it ain't hitting. And so, in the connection I'm making with boundaries is like when I'm expressing my needs, like when my boundaries are violated, and otherwise I'm being violated intentionally or otherwise, and I express that this thing hurts or this is not okay, I need to be treated this way, and that doesn't happen, that means that I have a then, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, not what I'm going to continue to ask you to do. I'm going to do something because I'm going to reestablish what I need, And so, and I think that's where we're getting lost in our collective boundary, right? Like our communal boundaries. Like we're not being treated well. Thinking about HUD, thinking about the Section 8 program, like and all of these like housing, institutions not respecting us, not respecting our boundaries, our needs, our lives, our literal lives. And we've been saying over and over, it's not news to anybody. Like we all know what's up, like, and we've been saying this is wrong, this is hurtful. Like our kids are dying, our people are dying, we're getting sick. And they're like, okay. And then
you should have worked harder.
And then what we do though is there's no then. It's not a like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do to reestablish that boundary. It's this, we continue to complain. And I think that like, and so when you ask, like, I don't know why it's not working, because it's like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Like if someone's violating us and they intend to continue to do it, so what you going to do about it? So I think like, like as we move forward, and as we've been moving forward, I think we need to figure out what are our collective boundaries. But also I think that takes in that as you said, like we can do more. And I heard you said that because I already know how stretched you are. Like I already know in the same, like, but I can do more. And that might be true. That might absolutely be true. But if we're all lifting with a pinky, then you don't have to stretch that far. Because there's enough of us, and when we're all lifting a pinky and we're all, again, like collectively, like stabilizing this chaos, we're stabilizing that chaos, then all of a sudden we have access to our own boundaries because we're not in a state of crisis and taking the bare minimum just so we can breathe our next breath, just, okay, well, if that's what y'all are going to do, this is what we're going to do. And that's not only true with housing, that's true in politics, that's true in education, healthcare, you name it, like whatever it is, like, okay, that's how y'all are going to operate. This is how we're going to operate. And if you don't want to like come to the table and be fair and equal and in community with us, then we don't have to. We just don't. So I just wanted to say that because that's what came in my mind when you said it.
Love that. See, I always learn something when I hang out with you.
One idea that does hit me though when I'm thinking about the collective strength of pinkies is that you need hundreds or thousands of pinkies. And I do think that this bring it back to the Wellness Collective is that, if we can get 8,000 people to pay $8 to be part of a mutual aid community, then we will have the pinkies to be able to rise up. But we need 8,000 of them. And maybe not 8,000, maybe 800, but we can't do it with 8.
Yeah.
And I think that's the tough thing. And I don't know if it's that hard. I mean, I ask people all the time to join the Wellness Collective and everyone says yes. And then I talk to you and they haven't joined. They like it in theory. It doesn't cost them more than their cup of coffee at Starbucks, but they're not joining. And I think it really comes down to sometimes just maybe they're telling me because I'm asking them yes, because it's easy to say yes, but not really do anything. Maybe I think that a lot of people are selfish. And I think that's one of the big things that we've got to change is get people to think about the other rather than themselves. It's one of the things that I get up in the morning and I say, how can I help someone today? And I think if everybody did that, we would have a lot more pinkies out there and be raising a lot more stuff up. But, my goal this month is to get 2 more people to join the Wellness Collective. And I ask people every day, and we don't have 8,000 members.
I think, you're absolutely right. Like, and what comes up for me is I'm thinking about like our deeply capitalistic society and how like embedded in our culture to believe in hyper individuality, which is
Mhm.
ridiculous. But we're taught and told that like you got to look out for you and just you and only your family, maybe. Like, and that means your immediate family and nobody else. And push, 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 gimme, 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 as Tupac said.
Yep.
But that's sabotage. Like, it's
Yep.
absolutely sabotage. None of us can survive that way. But we're taught that, right? And then we operate in that way. We act in that way. And so we find ourselves in community, well, in proximity with each other and keeping everyone at arm's length. And like, so like the idea of giving to my neighbor becomes foreign. And that hasn't always been the case. It's the case right now. And so just like it's the case right now, and it was meant that way, it was morphed that way, we can undo that. We can undo that. And a quick thinking about mutual aid, right? Like it's not only a part of our history as Black folks, it's a part of human history. It's literally just how society and civilization has always operated. It's how we sustain as society. And so when captive people were freed, when we were freed, it wasn't like I want y'all to hold on to like, what do you think that looked like and felt like? They didn't say, okay, well, here's your, a couple of dollars for you. Here's an apartment for you and a job or whatever. You go on and be a free person now after all this labor you and your family did and trauma and whatnot. No, they kicked them out on the street and said, good luck without me. And it was either you're going to go and die on your own, or you're going to come right back into slavery because this is the only way that you can survive. And those were the options. But there was these mutual aid collectives that formed people who were free, and they would take in freed or escaped captive people, and that's how they got food, shelter, water. That's how they got jobs. That's how they learned to read. That's how they got themselves together so that they can then move on and sustain their lives on their own. Mutual aid has always been a part of, and that's just an example. It's always been how we as human beings have sustained, is by relying on each other. But that has been taken from us, right? Like thinking about what are our core beliefs, like as we've been saying throughout this whole showing here, this whole town hall. What is our core beliefs and where do they come from? Because what we're being taught and told is that you should not look out for your neighbors. And so like as we're saying, like that's core to the Wellness Collective, is we're looking out for our neighbors. But there's like this cognitive dissonance because we're also being told in a much bigger way that you don't look out for your neighbors, you look out for you. And if your neighbors are struggling, it's their fault. And also, if your neighbors are struggling, all they have to do is call down, the Urban League or Catholic Charities or whoever, and not to pick on those folks, but they're like, charity just goes but so far, and it's not going to do what people need it to do. It's not. A lot of people get turned away. And sometimes a lot of people get traumatized just in the process of looking for support, so they won't, or they'll be harmed and still be turned away. That's what folks are dealing with. Like, that is what our people are dealing with. And so like, yeah, Paul, absolutely. I'm not surprised that like you've been telling folks and excited about it, and they're saying, yeah, I think there's like a belief in concept, but there's still this core belief we kind of have to crack open. And I think that happens with the more of us that continue to say like, no, we need each other. Like, don't let these people lie to you. They don't care about you. Look how we're living as a collective, whether it's physically happening to you or not. If your neighbor is struggling, you're struggling. That's it. That's all. I'm gonna jump off my soapbox, but I had to say that. Erica said desperation has altered this belief. Absolutely. That right there, that desperation is real, man. It is real. It literally changes how we see the world.
And how we see ourselves in it. Right. So that, how long periods of neglect of basic needs will alter how you see yourself in the world and how you fit into it. So the more we continue to raise children in desperate, situations, the more we continue to raise children in poverty where they're not getting their basic needs met, we are creating generations of people who feel like I have to look out for myself. I've got to do what I got to do for me because I've been looking around and it looks like I got to figure this out on my own. So, we keep raising more and more generations of children in poverty, and then we wonder why these kids are disconnected from family. They're disconnected from community because growing up in poverty makes you feel very alone. It starts to make you feel like you did something to deserve the bad things that are happening around you, because children don't have any other concept of, good people, good things happen to good people. So if good things are not happening to me, then does that make me a bad person? And if that's the case, then I might as well act like one. I might as well, it is so important that we are understanding that lack of the things that you need to be a productive human being, the things that you need to just exist in this world, when you're not getting it, you feel like it's something that you've done. Like, maybe I'm not good enough to, maybe I deserve to be struggling in the way that I'm struggling. And what that will do to a human, and how a human will act out, how a human will isolate, because I don't want other people to know I'm bad. I don't want other people to know I'm undeserving. And so I'll just start trying to figure out stuff on my own. A mother with 7 children, a mother with 7 children trying to navigate life alone, trying to navigate all of these systems, all these failed systems and policies. If you think for 1 minute that woman is not suffering mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, physically, and then all of that stress and trauma that she's feeling is trickling down into her children. So I wish people would really understand that allowing folks, just because we believe that, well, she must have done something, she shouldn't have done this, or she should have done that. All the shoulda, woulda, couldas in the world are not going to change that. Now we're going to have 7 children traumatized from poverty who are going to be your neighbors, who are going to go to school with your children, who are going to interact with your family on your street. Just remember that, when you think that it's just about them, it doesn't have anything to do with you, I promise you it has something to do with you, for sure. For sure.
The nail on the head, Miss Tammy. Well, I have kept y'all hostage here for about an hour and a half.
It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
As usual.
Yeah. I very much appreciate y'all taking the time out, and more so, I appreciate the way that y'all show up in the world. Because Ms. Tammy, as you said, not everyone who's showing up in this work is showing up in this way.
Yes.
So
I'll say that for another day. I ain't calling nobody out tonight, but yeah, they're out there. They're out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Another day. Right now, what I want to ask, like, are there ways in which people can get connected with y'all, work with y'all, be supportive? What are the things that our broader community can do to show up for Catapult, for the food bank, for Fireman Collective, and the farming co-op? How can people show up?
Well, I'll just quickly say that the best way for folks to show up for us is share our information with people that need it. Everybody's not ready to be a homeowner. Everybody doesn't want to be an entrepreneur, but there are a lot of people who do want that and don't know how to get started. We believe that we provide a safe, loving, nurturing space for people to figure those things out. Yeah, we share the information, share our posts. You hear people say they want to be a homeowner and entrepreneur, send them our way. And we promise we will take care of them with all the love and dignity and respect that they deserve.
Absolutely. I would have to agree. Sharing information with neighbors that need it is incredibly helpful. We cannot be everywhere all the time, and we really rely on our partners and our neighbors to share the resources that we can provide. And then additionally, for partners doing amazing work in their communities, we do offer impact grants, and those can include either focusing on SNAP outreach to get neighbors connected to SNAP benefits, or it could be what we call life stabilization project, where if you're working in different social determinants of health, we can see how that may intersect with food security, nutrition security work as well, and hopefully be able to make an impact that way. We've done some really great projects so far, including one with the Wellness Collective, and we're happy to continue working with you all on our specific grant. But yeah, that would be amazing. We can make an impact with our partners that are already doing great work as well.
Well, I already said what I'd love to see people show up by joining the Wellness Collective. So if everybody who's part of this conversation can take a few minutes to actually join the Wellness Collective, to learn about what mutual aid is all about, and commit. I think that's something that would be really, that would be a great thing for me to be able to just put out there. I am looking for people who are interested in being part of this farm cooperative. So if anyone's interested in that, you can kind of get to me through paul@firemancreative.com, through my email, or you could reach me through the Wellness Collective. But I think right now, I think my number one passion is just getting people to join a mutual aid society and participate together, and maybe end selfishness a little bit by helping others.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I will be sharing all of y'all information on our socials and whatnot. I do want to shout out our folks on Instagram. Sorry, our Instagram account didn't connect. Instagram is new to streaming, whatever, like connecting to different streaming platforms. And it didn't connect this time. So I am going to share this entire thing on our Instagram, but it just won't be live. So, but we love y'all. We heart y'all so big. We heart y'all very bigly. And I guess I'll reiterate what Paul said. Definitely consider joining the Wellness Collective. If you're not considering for yourself, if you ever see yourself having a need, you may know somebody, and that's going to be supportive for them. And whether you know someone or not, there are people who do have a need, right? Like, we get people who reach out often enough, and if we have a sponsor for them internally, then they're taken care of. But if they're not a member and they don't have a sponsor, we can't do anything about it. You know what I mean? So like I said, there's been folks who were aware of it, like Paul, like we told them about it, join. And it's like, yeah, I'll join eventually. And then they had a need, and they weren't a member, and they didn't have a sponsor. And we had to say no, because we have to honor our people who are members and do have sponsors, like to make sure the reciprocity is still happening. So if you are not a member, I heavily implore you to be so, and join this communal effort. Be a part of By Any Means Necessary. More information coming about that. And as Malcolm X said, we are not outnumbered, we are out organized. So come on down. That'll do it for us today. Very much appreciate y'all being in community, showing up for our folks, showing up for yourselves. One little pinky. If we all just lift a little, like, these major issues get really small, really fast. So thank y'all so much.
It's a
Good night,
pleasure.
everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Join, become a member right now. $8. Go ahead and do it.
$8, baby.
All right.
Best $8.